Innovation has been a games industry buzzword for a long time, but honestly most games are more iterative than innovative. This is fine, games are a medium where you're kind of expected to build heavily on past works due to their complexity. But sometimes a game comes along that innovates so hard that if your regular game is a dog, this was the equivalent of a dog that had grown up to be an octopus with a serious drinking habit that lives in space and writes abstract beat poetry. Alone in the Dark, not this, or this, was a commercial success, but a critical failure when it first released in 2008. It could be fairly described as legit innovative. You had dynamic fire physics before Far Cry 2 made that a big deal. You had light and electricity and physics-based puzzles, vehicle sections, open world elements, and an inventory crafting system, apparently based on those unaired episodes of MacGyver where he runs around flashing people and taping plastic bottles onto cats. There's a lot going on. Ambition in the games industry is often just marketing bullshit, and when it's not, the games are often suicidally driven to do things differently. Just look at No Man's Sky, Duke Nukem Forever, and Jurassic Park Trespasser. Cramming so many mechanics, so many exciting ideas into one AAA game, well, it was bound to go wrong somewhere. Let's get the bits where it went wrong out of the way before I tell you why this game is actually fantastic.
What are you talking about?
Okay, so the story. It's not the worst plot I've ever written, and does manage to lead the main actors through a decent adventure taking place in and around Central Park, but it's not actually very interesting, and the spoken dialogue is complete rubbish.
I don't even know who I am.
Okay. I know this is hard on you, but god damn it, do you think all this is easy for me? We both feel alone right now, believe me.
Well, drop it.
Hands up who thinks swearing makes you sound like an adult who's taking things seriously as opposed to lazy writing.
What the fuck?
And this is coming from me, and I fucking love swearing. The delivery itself is pretty weak for everyone other than Theo.
I'm Theophile Paddington.
And it's super hammy in general. Also, there's this line.
I'm the fucking universe!
So honestly, I can't believe they were taking it that seriously.
Fuck.
Controls. So they're largely functional, if incredibly clunky. Switching between tank controls and FPS movement because you have to change perspective for a bunch of actions, mainly shooting. Your inventory is a cool idea, but barely functional. There are quick select options, but your inventory changes so frequently you never get to really use these, and it just adds to the fiddliness. There's even a dedicated blink button, which is vital to the late game, but really what I get from the control scheme is that there just aren't enough buttons on a control pad for you to do everything the game wants to give you options for. At times, controlling Edward and dealing with enemies feels like playing Steel Battalion, because there's so many processes to go through and controller inputs just to get him to move into position and fight competently. Then there's this, in which your melee weapons are mapped to the right stick. It's alright when it works, terrible when it doesn't. It looks stupid. And though it does give you some options when puzzle solving, again, it's not well mapped onto a controller. Physics. For the time and genre, they're really ambitious, with dynamic material deformation, dynamic spreading of fire and electricity, and evil treacle, and the ability to move ropes and things to alter the environment, to control fires, to fight off your enemies, harass flambers, gunpowder, doilies. Also glitches. Lots of physics glitches, which have a tendency to completely fuck up the otherwise cool things the game was doing at the time, seeing as they often come when the game is trying to impress you with a car chase or massive disaster set piece, but then you get stuck on some hard as nails blade of grass and go from Dukes of Hazzard to Cars 2, and then get eaten. Enemies in a survival horror game are usually pretty important. You got your classic zombies and your ghosts and your apparitions based on your deep-seated sexual frustration because your wife is dying and you can't jerk it without breaking down into pieces. So what do we have in Alone in the Park? Well, blokes. Angry blokes with scars. Not pirates though, just ugly demon men. Also some bugs, and bats. Don't know what that's all about. This weird fisher thing is pretty threatening, and the idea of enemies deforming the environment in order to claw their way into this world is cool, like they're in there all along, a weird reality bending thing or something. But nothing is made of it. They're not scary, and mainly get in the way. Most of the danger comes from bad crowd control. Also, everything needs to be killed with fire. Good job you can pour whiskey into your gun and create fire bullets, as well as giving your gun a lifelong alcohol dependency. So's gun. Even though all that stuff is kind of a mess, about 4/5 of the way through, the game becomes an open world affair with the only objective being to hunt down and kill, with fire, these evil roots that have infested Central Park, suddenly opening up the full map of the game for exploration and adventuring. This part of the game is literally what saves it from being an overall failure, because it works so freaking well. In fact, it works so well, I'm not sure why other survival horror games haven't copied it. State of Decay sort of built itself around a similar concept, although that's more focused on base management, and Silent Hill had an open world to varying degrees for years, but it's never had a single objective. The one objective, and a whole world full of ways in which to advance it, leads to a burst of variety in the level design, environmental puzzles, enemy configurations, and starts to become a challenge of scoping out enemy nests, planning your attacks. Gearing up with all the Molotov cocktails and sticky bombs you can scavenge together and bailing out of a moving vehicle to smash open a locked door before burning down the whole building because you're the fucking A-team. This weird, janky as hell mess that was this game before suddenly comes onto its own as you work your way through the park identifying your targets and keeping your distance as you take on your role as exterminator and find the fun that was hidden in this lumpy plot and strangely built adventure all along. This is what it was all about, gluing a bomb to a golf cart and driving it into a room full of monsters before you bail out and walk away without looking at the explosion because you're Edward Carnby, the ugliest cool guy in survival horror. I'd like to know that I don't have any footage of this taking place, but it definitely happened, and if you call it into question you're calling me a liar. That's slander, and I'll see you in court.
Fuck you anyway.
It doesn't last forever, it doesn't even last for the rest of the game. But here you get to see the whole thing come together. Like, the rest of the game was just awkward tutorial, and they really wanted to make the entire game like this. But this was the story and stuff, it just didn't work out that way. And if you have the game, and you just want to play through the fun bits, well, you can. Thanks to another feature, which honestly deserves to be in more games. You can skip any part of the game you want. With the exception of the final chapter, you can play Tony in the Stock in whatever order you like. And if you're stuck or think a bit of shit, you can skip past it.
Previously on Alone in the Dark.
You can enjoy the game how you like. Really, I suspect they added this due to how a lot of the game is slightly balked in a lot of ways, and the difficulty curve is about as smooth as Tommy Lee Jones' craggy face. So just accept that sometimes the game is going to fuck you up and be willing to skip ahead. It really does help. I wish more games did this actually. It'd help with replayability, with helping less skilled players get through tough sections, and they'd be able to make a game that's such a happy mess as this without completely ruining any chance of people actually completing it. Alone in the Dark is not easy to describe as a great game, or even a good one, or sometimes even a playable one. I've leveraged a whole lot of criticisms at it over the course of this video, and criticism is deserved when something is clearly broken or badly put together. But even after all that, I still think this is a game absolutely worth playing, and really brilliant when it finally starts doing what it does best. Freeform, explorative survival horror with a single goal. When all the disparate elements finally click and the stars line up just right, this game is like fucking magic. For me, Alone in the Dark is a great game, and it's a damn shame it was critically panned on release. And there's never going to be a proper follow-up to this building on the ideas they put forward here. The last game in the franchise was a complete flop, a Left 4 Dead knockoff, in which you're neither alone or in the dark, and which functions even worse than this does without a shred of the creative effort or intense ambition to excuse it. The game is cheap these days, and you should play it. It changed how I thought about how survival horror and open world games could play, and few games have come close to its vision since. The studio did the best, and they couldn't pull it off. But you know what they say, shoot for the moon, and even if you miss you'll still be out in there.
Fucking universe.
Hey you, get over here. What are you doing walking around here like some lost fool? You want to go and get yourself killed? Is that the game plan? Everybody died so fast. Bang, just like that.
Waking up tonight was a fucking mistake.